The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, or opinions of the listener. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. So this month's episode is brought to you by the full moon. It is the full strawberry moon that comes out on June 29th of 2026. Okay. It is a powerful seasonal marker. Sometimes it's called the berry moon. So it's like the honeymoon, the blooming moon, berries ripen moon. It's all these names, but usually we call it the strawberry moon. So, arriving just after the summer solstice and the sign of Capricorn, spiritually it blends themes of abundance, growth, release, and practical manifestations. So the name strawberry moon comes from indigenous North American traditions, especially the Algonquin people. If I mispronounce that, I apologize. Who used it to mark the short strawberry harvest season in June. My strawberry harvest was great this year. I doubled my yield because there's a garter snake guarding my berries. So yeah, right before the summer solstice is when I harvested all my summer berries. So this is the reflection of sweetness, fertility, and abundance of early summer. In many cultures, June is also linked to marriage and celebration, with the name honeymoon echoing this. So here's some things that you can look forward to during this full moon. Reflect and release. The moon's illumination to review your goals, relationships, and projects. Let go of what no longer serves you. Build and plan. Channel Capricorn's discipline and actionable steps for long-term success. Practice gratitude. Acknowledge growth and abundance, both visible and hidden. Rituals. Light candles, meditate, and journal under the moonlight to align with its energy. And that is your full moon report. And now it's time for our segment, Ohio Strange News. So, since it's Pride Month, well, at the end of Pride Month, let's talk about some kind of big things that happened. I mean, I know Ohio is trying to ban drag queens and the way drag queens dress, I guess. I mean, I'm not wearing makeup and I like to wear comfy pants and comfy shirts. I kind of look like a dude when I wear so am I dragging as a dude if I don't put on makeup? Who knows? It's a fucking stupid law. Anyway, so Dayton drag performers, the Rubi girls, receive Ohio historical marker despite Trump's funding cuts. The legendary drag troupe received an official historical marker as state laws debate a public drag ban. On May 3rd, members of iconic Dayton drag troupe, the Rubi Girls, accepted an official Ohio historical marker from the state's Historical Society. The irony of the movement was not lost on the performers, as the state legislators are trying to outlaw public drag and gender performances. The Ohio History Connection unveiled the marker outside of the Rubi Clubhouse in Dayton's South Park neighborhood. The marker, which honors the nonprofit troupe's $4 million in fundraising contributions to local and regional HIV, AIDS, and LGBTQ+ organizations across the Miami Valley and beyond, was one of the 10 LGBTQ+ related markers that had its funding terminated last year by the Trump administration. But the marker came to fruition anyway, thanks to lucky timing. So the Rubi Girls founding member said all this, all right? This is their quote. Ours was the last marker up for consideration before the Trump administration stopped funding for diversity, equality, and inclusion markers. We were able to push it through. Good for them. So the leader of this Farquhar, I think that's how you pronounce their name, who performs in drag as Fonda Peter, called the historical marker an extreme honor for the Rubi Girls. That it comes at such a critical time in our state's history as officials in the state of Ohio are trying to ban many public places and honestly attack the transgender community. They really are. Stop doing that. The lawmakers are in the midst of debating the Ohio House Bill H. Bill 249, which would ban drag and gender performances in most public spaces. Not all of them. So they raised millions for the community. We're talking $4 million they raised for the community. And they are trying to ban the thing that was actually raising money. Make it make sense. The Rubi Girls exclusive director, Josh Stuckey, said that the marker symbolizes the troupe's story of joy, community, and resilience in the face of adversity and the anti-LGBTQ+ sentiment. The marker represents those folks who touched our lives and yet lost their battle with AIDS or HIV, and the voices and faces of hundreds of charities we have supported over the last 42 years. Stuckey told the Buckeye Flame that this would be the story in Ohio State House, not the one they have chosen to spew. Good for the Rubi girls. I am so proud of them. So they started performing for friends in attics of rented condos in Rubicon Street in 1984. So they've been doing this for 40 years and they've raised millions of dollars for the community. Why put a stop to that? It's a good thing. And I promise you, there are no drag queens in the Epstein files. In other strange Ohio news, Ohio might make Loveland Frogman the official state cryptid. Bigfoot may have a competition in Ohio. Yes, the Frogman. Throwback to the Castles and Cryptids episode. So, according to the legend, the creature is usually described as a large, frog-like being seen around Loveland, Ohio, about 4 feet tall, especially near the Little Miami River area. Some versions say that it was around 4 feet tall. Others go full nightmare fuel and describe it as man-size, like we're saying 6 feet tall. So State Rep Gene Schmidt and State Rep Tristan Rader are backing the idea, saying that the Frogman has become a major part of Loveland's local identity. And honestly, they do have a point there. Loveland now has Frogman artwork, Frogman events, Frogman merch, you name it, Frogman's there in Loveland. It's like Mothman in Point Pleasant. He's everywhere. They even have a Frogman festival. Schmidt said one of the local ice cream shops even made a Frogman sundae. While the creature may not be real, maybe not, it's up to you to judge. The tourism definitely brings in the dollars, okay? Just like Point Pleasant with Mothman. But not everyone is ready to hand the cryptid down to the giant and the cryptid crown to the giant amphibian, right? Ohio has a long history of Bigfoot sightings, and recent reports across Northeast Ohio brought Sasquatch back into the conversation. Some people argue Bigfoot deserves a little title, more of a title, especially since Ohio ranks highly national for reported Bigfoot sightings. And that's kind of true. Bigfoot is in Ohio for sure. But then there's Bessie, the Lake Erie monster, another Ohio legend with its own fan base. So now Ohio has a very important question to answer. Should the official state cryptid be Bigfoot, Bessie, or Frogman from Loveland? The proposed bill, Bill 821, has been introduced but has not had any hearings yet. And sure, people ask why lawmakers are debating cryptids when there are bigger issues on the table, like why you banning drag queens. And sure, people ask why lawmakers are debating cryptids when there are bigger issues on the table. But Schmidt said it pretty simply. Sometimes you have to have a little fun with what you are doing. So what do you think? Should Ohio make the Loveland Frogman the official, or does Bigfoot still deserve the crown? So let me know in the comments. Bigfoot, Bessie, or Frogman? This episode is sponsored by Sigmatic Mushroom Coffee. If you use my link that's going to be in the description of this episode, you will receive 20% off your first bag of Sigmatic Mushroom Coffee. That is foursigmatic.com/MELANIE 46308. Again, the link is foursigmatic.com/ELANIE 46308. So, with it being summertime, the summer solstice has just happened last week. Yeah, last week. I'm trying to think what day it is that I'm recording this. Yeah. So, it is officially summer, and Ohio has a lot of places for people to go and visit during the hiking season. But make sure you wear bug spray because mosquitoes and ticks are out really bad this year. So let's talk about some haunted Ohio caves, shall we? Ohio is home to numerous haunted caves and tunnels, each with chilling legends, ghostly sightings, and eerie histories that continue to intrigue visitors. So the caves are fragile. Oils from your hands can damage formations, and off-trail footprints last for years. Stick with marked routes and guided tours. Pack light, keep voices low, and leave no trace of humans behind. Guides know the safest paths and the best stories, which is what you really came for. Ohio hides a maze of caves beneath its hills and farmlands. Some are public show caves with jaw-dropping formations. Others are whispered about in old papers and late-night campfire chats. This little stories I'm going to tell you, little excerpts from, let me Let me just show you the book I got all my notes from. Haunted Hocking Hills. And it's like separated by county. So that's kind of nice too. So together, we're going to talk about the most haunted caverns, eerie legends, and the kinds of stories that make you glance over your shoulder. So we have, and I will try to get pics of as many of these as I can. So we got the Ohio Caverns, West Liberty. Known for its stunning crystal formations, the caverns are also said to harbor strange echoes, sudden cold spots, and unexplained phenomena that makes visitors feel watched during these quiet tours. And then we got the caverns in Bellevue. Local report mysterious ripples in the underground lake. That's kind of creepy if you think about it. Could be like a gas thing, who knows? Faint drips from distant passages. Legends will tell of miners who never left, giving the caverns a watchful, almost alive presence. The Haunted Cave at Lewisburg. This one is also a haunted attraction during Halloween. 80 feet underground, this cave is famous for its Halloween events, but off-season visitors claim of hearing lingering screams and feel a theatrical eeriness in the limestone halls. You know what they say about limestone? It charges paranormal activity. Ash Cave in Hocking Hills. Okay, so we're gonna go back to Ash Cave and Old Man's Cave in just a little bit. So keep those in mind. We got the Rock House in Hocking Hills, a true cave with a window-like chamber. It carries stories of bandits and outlaws. Visitors often feel watched, and echoes sometimes repeat even after speaking. Whispering Cave, Hocking Hills. A true cave without window-like chambers, it carries stories of bandits and outlaws as well. But it's not traditionally haunted. The cave's murmuring water and wide amphitheater roof create an unsettling atmosphere that has led hikers to report of hearing voices on windy days. Perry's Cave at Putnam Bay. Tied to the War of 1812, visitors reports of cold drafts, sudden drips, and hushed atmosphere, adding to the cave's mysterious aura. Moonville Tunnel. That's a throwback to one of our first episodes. This abandoned railroad tunnel is infamous for the ghost of a brakeman killed in a train accident. Visitors claim to see a glowing lantern and hear unexplained sounds at night. So Moonville Tunnel is not exactly a cave, but it is in Benton County where it's mostly wilderness. Okay, so here's a few tips if you're going to go explore these caves, okay? Safety first, stick to trails and guides, avoid accidents. Many caves have slick floors and tight passages. Bring essentials. Flashlights, layer clothes, and sturdy footwear enhances both safety and of the ear experience. Respect the history. Many caves are tied to historical events or local legends, so approach with a curiosity and care, would you? There was this cave system that's like really close to where I live called the Seven Caves. It is no longer open to the public because there are species of mushrooms and species of bats that they are trying to keep from being endangered. I want to say these things off. They're bugging me this month. Okay. So why these caves are haunted. The legends often stem from historical events such as mining accidents, hermit dwellings, or tragic deaths. Over time, these stories have been passed down through local folklore, eyewitness accounts, and paranormal investigations, creating a rich tapestry of ghostly tales that continue to captivate visitors. So whether you're a paranormal enthusiast like me or a lover of folklore, Ohio's haunted caves offer a unique blend of natural beauty, history, and spine-chilling stories that make exploring them an unforgettable experience. Alrighty. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the legend of Old Man's Cave. Old Man's Cave is in Hocking Hills State Park in Logan, Ohio, and it's kind of a nice little place. But the legend goes that there is a quiet town between Logan and South Bloomingburg called Cedar Grove. It was settled near Sandstone Gorge and Cedar Creek beneath the tall cliffs. So it's definitely a very unique part of the cave system there. So people still like to hike to the gorge today. And in the 1900s, it was not uncommon for sightseers to walk the paths beneath the huge hemlocks and view the waterfall. Back then, though it is illegal today to get so close, when the area was privately owned, much wilder, a few people visited. So the locals would set up ropes off the cliff and swing from a wide expanse of the creek below. Just have a good old time when it's hot, you know? One afternoon, two young men by the names of Craig and Hillis had set up a rope near Old Man's Cave, descending until they were about 50 feet from the creek water. They took turns swinging, basking in the applause from the onlookers until Craig saw one particular old man with white hair, a gray beard, and wearing old-fashioned leather clothing strolling along the trail. He carried an ancient rifle on his right shoulder, and by his side was a large hound kept stride. Craig pointed out to Hillis that there who was descending the rope, and Willis began to swing. The old man stopped and seemed as to be absorbed in the antics and, enjoying the moment with these people. So after a short while, the old man appeared to lose interest, and he continued up the trail into the cave. And as he reached the entrance, he passed a young couple seated on the rock, engaged in the pleasant conversation. Craig was still watching with great fascination when he saw the couple turn their heads toward the man, as if they had just noticed him. With that, the girl threw her palms to her lips and fell to a faint. Suddenly, those below were either in an uproar, appearing frightened as they scurried around us, staring at the awe of the old man. Craig's eyes went from the scene below and then to the old man who had slipped into a large recess cave. And then unexpectedly, the old man and his dog sunk into the sand at the bottom, vanishing. So that was a mystery there, right? So what happened? The town told testimonies about it from Cedar Grove, the old man, and it was discovered many years ago by two young boys who lived in the town that were just exploring the valley and many of the nooks and crannies. Okay, let's see here. So there's a group of boys years later that went exploring into the nooks and crannies of the rocks. Okay. One of the boys, the younger of the two, was uncertain about visiting this particular cave. It was rumored to be haunted. Some had heard of the low baying of a hound at night, but then they searched for the dog and could never be found. The boys only looked inside the cave a few minutes when the crunch of footsteps on leaves and sand forced them to look up from the flames. The old man and a large white dog, staying close to the man's side, walked past them. The man had a long gray beard, old-fashioned clothing, leather moccasins, and he carried an antique rifle at his shoulder. The man appeared to be interested in the back of the cave. He paced back and forth near the edge of the far rocks. Upon coming to the sandsill, peered intently at the shallow depressions of the sandstone earth, and then both the man and the dog vanished into the depression as if they had not been there at all. Interesting, right? So, eagerly the boys sought help from the local adults at Cedar Grove, investigating the place the old man had disappeared. With matlocks and shovels, a small crew of men removed rocks and dug out the hollow in the cave in the sandstone floor. They exposed 2 sets of bone, a man and a dog, and an old flintlock rifle with the date 1702 etched into the wood, and some cooking pots. But there was also a scratching in the stone that stated that the man's name was Retzler, and the date of his death was 1777. For a long time, many travelers would come visit and see the remains inside the cave, as they dubbed the Dead Man's Cave or Old Man's Cave, which is what it's now called, as Old Man's Cave. They would stare down at the bones and wonder who the man and the dog had been. Some people still hear the baying of the dog far away, and rumors prevailed that the ghostly dog returned. But for whatever reason, they did not know after a while the bones disappeared. So who knows what happened to those bones? So the curious stopped coming. The story faded away, except for a few living in the community who brought it up once in a while and then lingering outside the grocery store. Okay, so back in the 90s, a park ranger listened intently to the sound of a dog howling deep in the gorge. Occasionally, dogs from the scattering of homes nearby from their backyards. They usually found their way home, but this particular dog sounded like a hunting hound, and the frantic bay most certainly meant that he had maybe got a raccoon or something, so it meant poachers were hunting in the park. The ranger snatched his flashlight and worked his way down to the rugged trail into the gorge. He followed the sound of the dog, filtering out the splash of waterfall and the crunch of sandstone beneath his feet. But even while he got closer to the hound's yowling, and through the beam of his flashlight upward, he could see the little fog flowing up along the cliff rock. He saw no dog in the darkness, but yet the howls got louder and louder until it seemed to be circling him just out of reach. He whipped his flashlight around in a circle, and just then suddenly as the dog's baying came, it stopped. So possible things that could be the man and his dog. So back then in the 1700s, men were trappers. They would go out and trap animals. So they would have to wander pretty far away from home months at a time. So maybe him and his dog got, I don't know, maybe he got injured and the dog stayed with him and they died together from starvation. Could have been the native people, could have done something to them. We don't really know what happened to the old man or what happened to his bones, why they disappeared. Who knows? But if you've been to Old Man's Cave, let me know in the comments below. Okay, and then I want to touch on the Ash Cave. Ash Cave, Hocking Hills State Park, South Bloomingville, Ohio. There is the legend of the Pink Lady. Hikers have seen the ghost of a young woman dressed in the 1920s clothing along the trail that winds its way to the Ash Cave waterfall. She appears from behind trees and tags along on guided night hike tours. So people see her like walking with people all the time, easing back just far enough to appear like one of the group until she fades away. In one particular night hike, park naturalist Pat Quackenbush noted a straggler in his group of hikers. As a customary on the walks he led, Pat would stop 6 or 7 times along the trail, pointing out plants and wildlife and such. All right. So, Pat had been a naturalist for well over 40 years, and he knew that the trick of the trade. He learned early on to make the routine of silently taking a head count of those in the group when they stopped to make sure nobody has gotten left behind in the dark. Pat paused on a beech tree for his 7th and final stop. He began to count out his 12 hikers. With a flush of uncertainty, he realized there were 13. Somehow he miscalculated the last 6 times or someone had joined the group. He also noted that this 13th hiker was deathly pale and dressed in a feed sack dress common in the 1920s. So Pat swallowed hard and turned to the group. He may have been a naturalist a long time, but he could do something that he had never done before on a hike. He asked the hikers before him if they could see the mysterious shadow in the rear of the group. Each turned with uncertainty and some gasped. With that, the shadow took a couple of steps and vanished. Everyone in the group screamed because they just saw a ghost. Isn't that crazy? Ooh. If you've encountered the Pale Lady at Ash Cave, please let me know in the comments. Wow. Another notable haunted entity at Ash Cave, even in the Hocking Hills region, is the little drummer boy. Yes, he's a Native American drummer boy that is seen constantly. He looks to be about 8 or 9 years old, and he has a little drum with him. If you have explored any of the Ohio caves, please let me know in the comments which ones that you encountered. If you saw anything spooky, email me at underthemoonparapod@gmail.com and I'll read your story on the show, honeys. Okay, let's get into the listener submitted stories for this month. This month I have one. I did get some more in, but I'm saving those for the listener extravaganza in October. So if you got a spooky encounter, scary things happening to you, or someone that you know has a ghost story, send them my way, okay? Send me an email at underthemoonparapod@gmail.com and I will read your story on the show. This one comes from Little Red 8484. Okay, this past weekend, my husband and I attended a wedding that was held deep in the woods in a heavily treed enclosure. Nature was saturating us all around. It was gorgeous and peaceful. As we sat there waiting for the ceremony to begin, I was quite surprised to realize I could literally see time glitching. I've had some weird experiences before in my life, but never anything like this. I am open to supernatural paranormal, so it didn't freak me out. Rather, I felt a thrill from it. I could hardly believe what I was seeing. My eyes were toward the front of the ceremony area, and the team of photographers were there moving around, getting into position, and also the minister was taking his place. Seems normal, right? It was just a normal moment of waiting for the wedding to begin, but all of a sudden, what I saw was like those old-time movies where someone spliced the film and there was obvious moments where a few seconds were missing. It's very hard to describe, but it was like every few seconds there'd be a 1.5 second missing. Okay, like you could see like shit spliced. Okay, I got you. If a person was moving across the platform, it seemed jerky, jumpy, like spliced. This went on for maybe 45 seconds and I was astounded. On the way home, I just had to mention something about it to another human, so I said to my husband, who, by the way, does not have any interest in weird, otherworldly stuff. I said, hey, did you have anything strange happen to you or around you while you were waiting for the wedding to start? He said no. I decided not to mention it anything further. We had a perfectly normal rest of the night, went to bed, and I slept uninterrupted until morning. As he was leaving for work the next morning, he said, oh, hey, I gotta tell you this weird thing that happened. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was wondering what time it was. I turned over to see the clock, and instead of our clock, I saw a list. My husband is the most excitable man I know, but he was also enthused about this. He said, a list. And I said, a list? And he said, yes, a digital electronic list was like superimposed in the place where our clock usually is. But I couldn't make out any words on the list. He then described being intrigued and blinked to try to read the list. That's the moment it had changed back to being a clock, and it said 1:30 a.m. What is going on with time? Maybe your husband was lucid dreaming, because sometimes when you try to lucid dream, and if you see like writing on the wall, or if you're trying to open a book or a magazine in your dream, you won't be able to read nothing. That's how you can tell you're dreaming. Or like look at yourself in the mirror while you're in a lucid dream. You don't look right. So it could have been a lucid dream, that thing in between awake and sleep when he was trying to read the clock. He could have still been dreaming, but consciously enough inside his dream to know that he wanted to know what time it was. So that's something. The glitch, though, at the wedding, I am not sure how to take that. Do you know if you have glaucoma? Because I don't know, if you don't have any eye issues or anything like that, or no medical reason to think that you're seeing things glitching, then it could have been a glitch in the Matrix. Very spooky, very spooky. And I do wonder if any of the other guests happen to see anything like that too. It makes you wonder. Okay, so this is the conclusion of another episode of Under the Moon Paranormal presents Ohio Legends. And as always, my friends, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a follow on Spotify, rate us on Spotify, and share this with a friend that likes all things that are spooky. And until next time, stay spooky. Under the Moon Paranormal is written, hosted, and produced by me, Melanie Peters. Check us out on YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe, and share with a friend that likes all things that are spooky. Music for this podcast was written for Under the Moon Paranormal by Bradley Yates. This podcast is 100% AI-free and human-made.